My name is Clara Jennings, I'm 34 years old, and for the first time in my adult life, I feel like I'm talking out loud about the thing I've been burying under work, chores, and fake smiles. I guess I want someone to hear this, because if I don't say it, maybe I'll keep pretending it didn't break me. The day everything began to fall apart was the same day my father-in-law handed me two things: a pitiful check for $2 and a letter ending my job at his company. Meanwhile, outside, a brand new BMW purred in the driveway with a ridiculous bow on top, for my husband's daughter from his first marriage. A bright red one. Shiny as hell. She squealed with delight when she saw it, and I stood there feeling small, invisible, and like I'd been cut out of my own life. That moment, it gutted me. Not because of the car. Not because I wanted it. But because it was the first time I realized how little space I took up in this family, in my marriage. When I met Ethan, I was 26. He was 33, confident, witty, the kind of man who made you feel like you were the only person in the room. I used to feel wrapped up in him, like we were fire and air, feeding each other in the best way. He kissed me like he meant it, held me like he never wanted to let go. Back then, there was always a hand on my thigh when we drove anywhere, his fingers tracing absent circles like he couldn't get enough. We were messy and passionate and reckless in the way only people in love can be. But love changes. Or maybe we do. Somewhere along the way, the kisses got different. Not gone, just different. A peck on the lips before work that felt more like a habit than hunger. Cuddles on the couch where his body felt warm but his mind seemed far away, like he was already somewhere else. I used to lean into him when he hugged me, breathing in that woodsy cologne he always wore, feeling safe, wanted. Lately, the hugs have felt like something to check off the list, like taking out the trash or paying the bills. He wraps his arms around me, pats my back twice, and moves on. I can't tell you the exact day it shifted, but I remember the first night I felt it. We were sitting on the back porch watching the sun go down. It was warm, early spring, the air smelled like cut grass and someone grilling 2 houses over. I had my legs tucked up under me, wearing one of his hoodies, the one he used to say looked better on me than on him. He brought out 2 glasses of wine, handed me one, and sat down next to me. Close enough that our shoulders touched, but not close enough to feel like we were together. I leaned into him, like always, and he didn't put his arm around me. It was so small, so stupidly small, but it felt like a door shutting somewhere deep in the house of us. I sipped my wine and told myself I was imagining it. That he was tired. That people change and it didn't mean anything. But as the sun slid behind the trees and he stared off at nothing in particular, I felt this pang, sharp and unexpected, like grief, like losing something before you even realized it was gone. That was the night I realized, I didn't know when we stopped being us. And worse. I didn't know how to get it back. Ethan's a firefighter, the kind of man who lives in extremes. When the siren blares, he runs toward danger. He's the hero people cheer for when he walks into a diner still in uniform. Women hand him their phone numbers on coffee sleeves, grinning like it's a joke but secretly hoping it isn't. That's part of what drew me to him years ago, the confidence, the strength, the way he carried the weight of the world like it was nothing. But you know what nobody tells you? Heroes get tired. They come home empty sometimes, too burned out to talk about anything real. And me? I don't need roses. I don't need grand gestures. What I need is him, really him. His words. His thoughts. The man who used to stay up with me at midnight eating cereal out of the box, confessing his stupid fears about growing older, laughing until our sides hurt. But lately, I can't get to him. 2 nights after the BMW incident, I was in the kitchen chopping vegetables for dinner. The house smelled like garlic and onions sizzling in the pan. Ethan came in through the garage, boots heavy on the tile, shoulders squared the way they always are after a long shift. "Hey, babe," he said, voice low, rough. He came up behind me, slid his hands around my waist, and kissed the back of my neck. It should have felt good. It used to feel good. But lately, his touches feel like he's trying to check off some invisible box, like he wants to fix something with his hands because words are too hard. I froze for half a second, just long enough for him to notice. "You okay?" he asked, pulling back slightly. "Yeah," I said quickly, forcing a smile over my shoulder. "Just busy. Knife in my hand, you know?" He smirked like he didn't quite believe me, but he let it go. He always lets it go. That's part of the problem. Dinner was quiet. The kind of quiet where forks scraping plates sounds like thunder. He tried to talk about his day, something about a kitchen fire in an apartment building, but I couldn't focus. Because here's the thing, I wanted him to ask about me. Not what I made for dinner. Not whether the mail came. I wanted him to look me in the eye and ask, "How are you?" But he didn't. And I didn't know how to tell him that I needed him to, because it felt petty, needy, like I was asking for something ridiculous when he'd just spent 12 hours saving lives. So instead, we sat there pretending everything was fine, the air thick with things unsaid. Later that night, in bed, he reached for me. His hands slid under my t-shirt, warm and familiar, but my chest tightened because it felt disconnected. Like he was trying to jump to the part where everything was okay without actually talking about why it wasn't. "Ethan," I whispered, my hand closing over his. He stilled. "What's wrong?" I opened my mouth, but the words tangled on my tongue. "I feel lonely. I miss you even when you're right here. I need more than this." But I said none of it. "Just tired," I muttered instead. He nodded slowly, rolled onto his back, and stared at the ceiling. A few minutes later, his breathing evened out, and I lay there wide awake, feeling like there was a glass wall between us. The next morning, he kissed me goodbye before his shift, soft, quick, like always. And it hit me, he thought everything was fine. He thought the kiss meant what it used to. But I was drowning in all the words I couldn't say, and he didn't even see the water rising. 3 days later, Ethan came home early. That almost never happened, so when I heard his truck in the driveway before sunset, a flicker of hope sparked in my chest. Maybe he'd surprise me. Maybe we'd really talk, like we used to. I was on the couch reading when he walked in, still in uniform, smelling faintly of smoke and aftershave. "Hey, beautiful," he said, his voice low, easy. He tossed his keys in the bowl by the door and walked over, leaning down to kiss me. I let him. But my mind went blank the second his lips touched mine. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't anything. Like kissing through glass. I smiled weakly when he pulled back, tried to act normal, but inside I was screaming at myself, "What's wrong with you? You used to melt when he did that." "Long day?" he asked, sitting next to me, his hand finding my thigh automatically, like muscle memory. "Yeah. Work was, you know." "Work," I said, closing the book in my lap. He nodded, his thumb moving in slow circles on my leg. Comforting. Familiar. And yet my shoulders tensed like I was bracing for something. He leaned closer, nuzzling my neck. "I missed you," he murmured, his breath warm against my skin. And I wanted to want him. I wanted to turn into him like I used to feel that rush of closeness we had in the early days. But all I felt was this heavy, confusing pressure, like there was some invisible script I was supposed to follow, and I didn't know my lines anymore. I shifted slightly, not enough to be obvious, just enough to put an inch of space between us. He noticed. "Clara," he said softly, pulling back to look at me. "What's going on? You've been different." The concern in his eyes made my chest ache. Because he wasn't wrong. I was different. I just didn't know how to explain it without sounding cruel. "I'm fine," I said too quickly. "Just tired." His jaw tightened a little, like he didn't believe me but didn't want to push. He tried again, wrapping an arm around my shoulders, pressing a kiss to the side of my head. "Come here," he said, like closeness was the answer. But it wasn't. Not right now. I sat stiff in his arms, feeling the weight of him, the warmth of him, and none of it reaching the place in me that needed it most. Clara, he said again, quieter this time, like maybe saying my name softer would unlock me somehow. But I just nodded, let him hold me, and stared at the muted TV across the room while my mind spun with things I couldn't say. Why don't you talk to me anymore? Why do you always skip to this part, like touching me is the same as knowing me? I knew he was trying. I knew he loved me in the way he understood love. But it felt like we were speaking two different languages, both shouting I need you across a canyon neither of us could cross. When his hand slid lower, when the kiss on my temple lingered a little too long, my whole body went tense again. And the worst part? I missed wanting him. I missed us. But all I could think was, why does everything have to turn into sex? It happened on a Thursday night. I wasn't planning it. Nobody plans to lose it like that. I had made chicken pasta, lit a candle on the table because I thought maybe, just maybe, if I set the mood, if I tried hard enough, we could have one normal dinner that didn't feel like two strangers sharing air. Ethan came home late. He always came home late. He kissed my cheek like he was clocking in for a shift, sat down across from me, and started eating without much of a word. So, I said, trying to sound light, how was your day? He shrugged, mouth full. Same as always. That was it. The same man who used to tell me every little thing, the funny call from dispatch, the rookie who tripped over the fire hose, the old lady who flirted with him at the grocery store, now gave me nothing. I pushed my pasta around with my fork. Then he said it, the thing that cracked me right open. I was talking to my dad today, he said casually, wiping his mouth with a napkin. He wants to know if you've found a new job yet. The words hit like a punch. Because that man, his father, the CEO, the one who handed me $2 and a sack letter while giving his granddaughter a BMW, hadn't just fired me. He'd made me feel small. Disposable. Like I was just Ethan's wife, not a person with her own life, her own work, her own worth. And now Ethan was casually relaying the question like it was nothing. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp, bitter. Oh, does he? That's sweet of him to care. Ethan looked up, frowning. Clara. No, really, I snapped. I mean, I'm so glad he's concerned. You know, since he gave your daughter a brand new BMW while he handed me $2 and a pink slip like I was some. Clara, Ethan said again, firmer this time, like I was the one out of line. Something in me snapped. Do you even see me anymore? I blurted. My voice cracked on the word see. Do you even care what that felt like? Watching him give her a car worth more than our house while I got tossed out like trash? Do you even know what that did to me? Ethan froze, fork halfway to his mouth. I wasn't done. And you, I said, pointing at him now, tears pricking my eyes, you come home and kiss me and touch me like that makes everything fine. Like if we just skip to the part where you get what you want, we don't have to talk about anything real. He stared at me, jaw tight, eyes darkening in that way that always meant he was 2 seconds from shutting down completely. What are you talking about? He said slowly, like he was genuinely baffled. That hurt worse than anything. Because he didn't get it. He didn't see me unraveling, didn't hear the screaming in my head every time he brushed his hand over my thigh like that was the same thing as love. Forget it, I muttered, shoving back from the table so hard my chair screeched on the tile. Clara. Just forget it. I yelled, and then I was crying, big ugly tears I hadn't planned on shedding tonight. He went quiet. Completely quiet. I grabbed my plate, dumped it in the sink, and walked out of the kitchen before he could see me crumble all the way. Later, lying in bed alone while he stayed downstairs watching TV, the guilt settled in. Had I overreacted? Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe he really was trying and I was the one tearing us apart. But deep down, under the shame and confusion, one thought pulsed like a bruise. Why am I the only one fighting for us? The days after the blow-up stretched long and gray, like winter had moved into our house even though it was mid-spring. Ethan and I spoke only when we had to. Can you hand me the salt? What time's your shift? Did you feed the dog? His voice had gone flat, his laugh gone missing. I caught him watching me sometimes when he thought I wasn't looking, this quiet, wounded expression on his face like he was trying to solve a puzzle he didn't understand. And I missed him. God, I missed him so much it hurt. But every time I thought about reaching for his hand, about leaning into his side on the couch, something stopped me. Pride? Anger? Fear? I didn't even know anymore. One evening I came home from work and found him sitting on the back porch, staring at nothing. The setting sun washed his face in gold, highlighting the exhaustion in his eyes, the way his shoulders sagged like he was carrying more than just me and my sharp words. I stood in the doorway for a long time, watching him. This man wasn't a villain. He wasn't heartless. He fought fires for strangers. He fixed the leaky sink without me asking. He still brought home my favorite coffee on Sundays, even if we barely spoke when he set it down on the counter. And yet, somewhere along the way, we'd turned into two people living parallel lives under the same roof. I missed the way we used to be, the late-night talks, the easy laughter, the heat between us that felt like home instead of obligation. Now, every kiss felt like a question I didn't know how to answer. One night, I heard him on the phone with his brother. Yeah, he said quietly, leaning against the wall, his back to me. She barely looks at me lately. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. My chest ached at the words. Because he wasn't cruel. He wasn't careless.